Good morning, sir. Hirado, good morning, classmates in school legislation. Okay, I will be reporting about Republic Act 7796, which is the TESDA Act of 1994. So my name is Denise Leisel A. Tibubos, and I am going to report the part 1 of this report. Okay, and part 2 will be reported by my partner, Ma'am Nelthia F. Gelario. Okay, so what is this act? It is an act creating the Technical Education and Skill Development Authority, providing for its powers, structure, and for other purposes. So Section 1, we have the title. This act shall be known as the Technical Education and Skills Development Act of 1994 or the TESDA Act of 1994. And for Section 2, the Declaration of Policy, it is hereby declared the policy of the state to provide relevant, accessible, high quality, and efficient technical education and skills development in support of the development of high quality Filipino middle-level manpower responsive to and in accordance with Philippine development goals and priorities. And the state shall encourage active participation of various concerned sectors, particularly private enterprises, being direct participants in and immediate beneficiaries of a trained and skilled workforce in providing technical education and skills development opportunities. And for Section 3, the Statement of Goals and Objectives. It is the goal and objective of this act to first, promote and strengthen the quality of technical education and skills development programs to attain international competitiveness. Second, focus technical education and skills development on meeting the changing demands for quality middle-level manpower. And for the third one, we have encourage critical and creative thinking by disseminating the scientific and technical knowledge base of middle-level manpower development programs. Fourth, recognize and encourage the complementary roles of public and private institutions in technical education and skills development and training systems, and inculcate desirable values through the development of moral character with emphasis on work ethic, self-discipline, self-reliance, and nationalism. And for the Section 4, we have the definition of terms. So it as used in this act. So first we have skill. It shall mean the acquired and practiced ability to carry out a task or job. And next we have skills development. It shall mean the process through which learners and workers are systematically provided with learning opportunities to acquire or upgrade, or both, their ability, knowledge, and behavior pattern required as qualifications for a job or range of jobs in a given occupational area. Next, technical education. So it shall refer to the education process designed at post-secondary and lower tertiary levels, officially recognized as non-degree programs aimed at preparing technicians, paraprofessionals, and other categories of middle-level workers by providing them with a broad range of general education, theoretical, scientific, and technological studies, and related job skills training. And we have trade. Shall mean any group of interrelated jobs or any occupation which is traditionally or officially recognized as craft or artisan in nature, requiring specific qualifications that can be acquired through work experience and or training. So we have middle-level manpower. It refers to those who have acquired practical skills and knowledge through formal or non-formal education and training equivalent to at least a secondary education, but preferably at post-secondary education with a corresponding degree of diploma, or skilled workers who have become highly competent in their trade or craft as attested by industry. And we have next word is private enterprises. It refers to an economic system under which property of all kinds can be privately owned and in which individuals alone or in association with another can embark on a business activity. This includes industrial, agriculture, or agro-industrial establishments engaged in the production, manufacturing, processing, repacking, or assembly of goods, including service-oriented enterprises. And we have trainers. It shall mean persons who direct the practice of skills toward immediate improvement in some task. And trainers shall mean persons who provide training to trainers aimed to developing the latter's capacities for imparting attitudes, knowledge, skills, and behavior patterns required for specific jobs, task, occupation, or group of related occupations. And we have trainees. It shall mean persons who are participants in a vocational, administrative, or technical training program for the purpose of acquiring and developing job-related skills. And we have the term apprenticeship. It is training within employment with compulsory related theoretical instruction involving a contract between an apprentice and an employer or an approved apprenticeable occupation. And we have apprentice. Apprentice is a person undergoing training for an approved apprenticeable occupation during an apprenticeship agreement. And apprenticeship agreement means a contract wherein a prospective employer binds himself to train the apprentice, who in turn accepts the terms of training for a recognized apprenticeable occupation, emphasizing the rights, duties, and responsibilities of each party. And apprenticeable occupation means an occupation officially endorsed by a tripartite body and approved for apprenticeshable by the authority. And for the learners, it refers to persons hired as trainees in semi-skilled and other industrial occupations which are non-apprenticable. Learnership programs must be approved by the authority. And we have user-led or market-driven strategy. So it refers to a strategy which promotes strengthened linkages between educational or training institutions and industry to ensure that appropriate skills and knowledge are provided by the educational system. And we have the dual system or training. It refers to a delivery system of quality technical and vocational education which requires training to be carried out alternately in two venues, in school and in the production plant. In-school training provides the trainee the theoretical foundation, basic training, guidance, and human formation, while in plant training develops his skills and proficiency in actual work conditions as it continues to inculcate personal discipline and work values. And for levy grant system, it refers to a legal contribution from participating employers who would be beneficiaries of the program, often as a percentage of the payroll, which is subsequently turned over or rebated to enterprises offering employee training programs. All right, and now we're down to Section 5. It is a technical education and skills development authority creation. So to implement this policy declared in this act, there is hereby created a technical education and skills development authority, which is we call TESDA, hereinafter referred to as the authority which shall replace and absorb the National Manpower and Youth Council, the Bureau of Technical and Vocational Education, and the Personnel and function pertaining to technical vocational education in the regional offices of the Department of Education, Culture and Sports, and the apprenticeship program of the Bureau of Local Employment of the Department of Labor and Employment. And we have Section 6, composition of the authority. So the authority shall be composed of the TESDA Board and the TESDA Secretariat. Okay, so let's go to Section 7, composition of the TESDA Board. The TESDA Board shall be composed of the following: the Secretary of Labor and Employment, Chairperson, Secretary of Education, Culture and Sports, but now we call it DepEd, Co-Chairperson, Secretary of Trade and Industry, Co-Chairperson, Secretary of Agriculture, Member, Secretary of Interior and Local Government, and its member, and Director General of the TESDA Secretariat and its member. So in addition, the President of the Philippines shall appoint the following members from the private sector: 2 representatives from the employer or industry organization, 1 of whom shall be a woman; 3 representatives from the labor sector, 1 of whom shall be a woman; and 2 representatives of the National Association of Private Technical Vocational Education and Training Institutions, 1 of whom shall be a woman also. As soon as all the members of the private sector are appointed, they shall so organize themselves that the term of office, 1/3 of their number, shall be expire every year. The member from the private sector appointed thereafter to fill vacancies caused by expiration of term shall hold office for another 3 years. So the President of the Philippines may, however, revise the membership of the TESDA Board whenever the President deems it necessary for the effective performance of the Board's function through an administrative order. The TESDA Board shall meet at least twice a year or as frequently as may be deemed necessary by its chairperson. In the absence of the chairperson, a co-chairperson shall preside. In case any member of the board representing the government cannot attend the meeting, he or she shall be regularly represented by an undersecretary or deputy director general, as the case may be, to be designated by such member for the purpose. And the benefits, privileges, and emoluments of the board shall be consistent with existing laws and rules. And let's go to Section 8, powers and functions of the board. The authority shall primarily be responsible for formulating, continuing, coordinated, and fully integrated technical education and skill development policies, plans, and programs, taking in consideration the following. So the state policy declared herein of giving new direction and thrust to efforts in developing the quality of Filipino human resource through technical education and skills development. The implementation of the above-mentioned policy requires the coordination and operation of policies, plans, and programs of different concerned sectors of Philippine society. Equal participation of representatives of industry groups, trade associations, employers, workers, and government shall be made the rule in order to ensure that urgent needs and recommendations are readily addressed, and improved linkages between industry, labor, and government shall be given priority in the formulation of any national level plan. And the board shall have the following powers. First, promulgate after due consultation with industry groups, trade association, employers, workers, policies, plans, programs, and guidelines as may be necessary for the effective implementation of this act. Second, organize and constitute various standing committees, subsidiary groups, or technical working groups for efficient integration, coordination, and monitoring technical education and skills development programs at the national, regional, and local levels. And third, enter into, make, execute, perform, and carry out domestic and foreign contracts subject to existing laws, rules, and regulations. Fourth, restructure the entire subsector consisting of all institutions and programs involved in the promotion and development of middle-level manpower through upgrading, merger, and/or phase out following a user-led strategy. And fifth, approve trade skills standards and trade tests as established and conducted by private industries. Sixth, establish and administer a system of accreditation of both public and private institutions. Seventh, establish, develop, and support institutions, trainers, training, and/or programs. Eight, lend, support, and encourage increasing utilization of the dual training system provided by Republic Act number 7686. And ninth, exact reasonable fees and charges for such tests and trainings conducted and retain such earnings for its own use, subject to guidelines promulgated by the authority. 10th, allocate resources based on the Secretariat's recommendation for the programs and subjects it shall undertake pursuant to approved National Technical Education and Skills Development Plan. 11, determine and approve systematic funding schemes such as the levy and grant scheme for technical education and skills development purposes. 12, create, when deemed necessary, an advisory committee which shall provide expert and technical advice to the board to be chosen from the academe and the private sector, provided that in case that advisory committee is created, the board is hereby authorized to set aside a portion of its appropriation for its operation. And 13, perform such other duties and function necessary to carry out the provisions of this act consistent with the purposes of the creation of TESDA. And we have Section 9, the power to review and recommend action. So the authority shall review and recommend action to concerned authorities on proposed technical assistance programs and grants and aid for technical education or skills development, or both, including those which may be entered into between the government of the Philippines and other nations, including international and foreign organizations, both here and abroad. Section 10, the TESDA Secretariat. So there is hereby created as a Technical Education and Skills Development Authority Secretariat, which shall have the following functions and responsibilities: to establish and maintain a planning process and formulate a national technical education and skills development plan in which the member agencies and other concerned entities of the authority at various levels participate. And to provide also analytic inputs to policy decision-making of the authority on allocation of resources and institutional roles and responsibilities as shall be embodied in annual agency's technical education and skills development plans in accordance with the manpower plan for middle-level skilled worker as approved by the authority, to recommend measures and implement the same upon approval by the authority for the effective and efficient implementation of the National Technical Education and Skills Development Plan, to propose to the authority the specific allocation of resources for the programs and projects it shall undertake pursuant to approved National Technical Education and Skills Development Plan, and to submit to the authority periodic reports on the progress and accomplishment of work programs of implementation of plans and policies for technical education and skills development. Also, to prepare for approval by the authority an annual report to the President on technical education and skills development, to implement, administer the apprenticeship program as provided for in Section 18 of this Act, to prepare and implement upon approval by the authority a program for the training of trainers, supervisors, planners, and manager as provided for in Section 23 of this Act, to enter into agreement to implement approved plans and programs and perform activities as shall implement the declared policy of this Act, and to perform such other functions and duties as may be assigned by the Board. Now, let's go to Section 11, Director General. So the TESDA Secretariat shall be headed by a Director General who shall likewise be a member of the TESDA Board. Who shall likewise be a member of TESDA Board. The Director General shall be appointed by the President of the Philippines and shall enjoy the benefits, privileges, and emoluments equivalent to the rank of Undersecretary. So as Chief Executive Officer of the TESDA Secretariat, the Director General shall exercise general supervision and control over its technical and administrative personnel. Now let's go to Section 12, Deputy Directors General. So the Director General shall be assisted by 2 Deputy Directors General to be appointed by the President of the Philippines on recommendation of the TESDA Board. 1 to be responsible for vocational and technical education and training, and 1 to be responsible for policies and planning. And let's go down to Section 13, Chief of Services of Administration. So the Director General shall also be assisted by a Chief of Services for Administration who shall be a career civil service official to be appointed by the TESDA Board. And, okay, now let's go to Section 14, Structural Organization and Personnel. So the TESDA Secretariat, in addition to the offices of the Director General, Deputy Director General, and Chief of Services for Administration, shall be composed of the following offices to be headed by an Executive Director to be appointed by the Director General and shall have the rank and emoluments of Director 4. Okay, and we have the Planning Office. So the Planning Office shall be under the Office of the Deputy Director General and shall have the following functions. First, to design and establish planning processes and methodologies which will particularly enhance the efficiency of resource allocation and decisions within the technical education and skills development sector. And second, to lead the preparation and periodic updating of a national plan for technical education and skills development, which shall become the basis of resource allocation decisions with the sector. Third, to conduct researchers, studies, and development information systems for effective and efficient planning and policy making with the sector. Fourth, to develop and implement programs and projects aimed to building up planning capabilities of various institutions within the sector. And fifth, to perform such other powers and functions as may be authorized by the authority. And we have here the Skills Standards and Certification Office. So the Skills Standards and Certification Office shall be under the Office of the Deputy Director General and shall have the following functions. First, to develop and establish a national system of skills standardization, testing, and certification in the country. Second, to design, innovate, and adopt processes and methodologies whereby industry groups and workers' guilds take note on progressively the responsibility of setting skills standards or identified occupational areas, and the local government units actively participate in promoting skills standards, testing, and certification. And third, to establish and implement a system of accrediting private enterprises, workers' associations, and guilds and public institutions to serve as skills testing venues. And fourth, to conduct research and development on various occupational areas in order to recommend policies, rules, and regulations for effective and efficient skills standardization, testing, and certification system in the country. And fifth, to perform such other duties and functions as may be authorized. And the National Institute for Technical, Vocational, and Educational Training, or the NITVET, the National Institute for Technical, Vocational, and Education Training, to be under the Office of the Deputy Director General and shall have the following functions. First, to serve as the research and development arm of the government in the field of the technical, vocational education and training. Second, to develop curricula and program standards for various technical vocational education and training areas. Third, to develop and implement an integrated program for continuing development of trainers, teachers, and instructor with the technical education and skills development sector. And fourth, to develop programs and projects which will build up institutional capabilities within the sector. And fifth, to perform such other powers and functions as may be authorized. And now we have the regional TESDA offices. So the regional TESDA offices shall be headed by the regional directors with the rank and emoluments of Director 4 to be appointed by the President. And the regional TESDA offices shall be under the direct control of the Director General and shall have the following functions. First, to serve as a secretariat to Regional Technical Education Skills Development Committee. Second, to provide effective supervision, coordination, and integration of the technical education and skills development programs, projects, and related activities in their respective jurisdictions. Third, to develop and recommend TESDA programs for regional and local level implementation within the policies set by the authority. And fourth, to perform such other duties and functions as may be deemed necessary. All right, so I think, okay, that would be all for part 1 of this report. And section 15 will be reported by my partner, Ma'am Nelthia Gelario. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, Ma'am Denise. And now, let's proceed to section 15, the provincial TESDA offices. The provincial offices shall be headed by skill development officers who shall have the rank and emoluments of the Director 3. The provincial TESDA officers shall be under the direct control of the Director General and shall have the following functions. 1. To serve as secretariat to provincial TESDA committees. 2. To provide technical assistance, particularly to local government units, for effective supervision, coordination, integration, and monitoring of technical vocational education and training programs within their localities. 3. To review and recommend TESDA programs for implementation within their localities. And 4. To perform such other duties and functions as may be authorized. Furthermore, the TESDA secretariat may further composed by such offices may be deemed necessary by the authority. The Director General shall appoint such personnel necessary to carry out the objectives, policies, and functions of the authority subject to civil service laws, rules, and regulation. Next, Section 16, Compliance with Salary Standardization Law. The compensation and emoluments of the officials and employees of authority shall be in accordance with the Salary Standardization Law and other applicable law under the National Compensation and Classification Plan. Section 17, Consultant and Technical Assistance, Publication and Research. In pursuing its objectives, the authority is hereby authorized to set aside a portion of its appropriation for the hiring of services of qualified consultants and private organization for research work and publication in the field of technical education and skill development. It shall avail itself of the services of other agencies of the government as may be required. Section 18, Transfer of Apprenticeship Program. The apprenticeship program of the Bureau of Local Employment of the Department of Labor and Employment shall be transferred to the authority which shall implement and administer said program in accordance with existing law, rules, and regulation. Section 19, Technical Education and Skill Development Committees. The authority shall establish technical education and skill development committees at the regional and local levels to coordinate and monitor the delivery of all skills development activities by the public and private sectors. These committees shall likewise serve as technical education skill development committees of the regional and local development councils. The composition of the technical education and skill development committees shall be determined by the Director General subject to the guidelines to be promulgated by the authority. Next, Section 20, Skill Development Centers. The authority shall strengthen the network of national, regional, and local skill training centers of the purpose of promoting skill development. This network shall include skill training centers in vocational and technical schools, technical institutes, polytechnic colleges, and other duly accredited public and private dual system educational institutions. The Technical Education and Skills Development Center shall be administered and operated such under rules and regulation as may be established by the authority in accordance with the National Technical Education and Skill Development Plan. Section 21, Formulation of a Comprehensive Development Plan for a Middle-Level Manpower. The authority shall formulate a comprehensive development plan for middle-level manpower based on a national employment plan or policies for the optimum allocation, development, and utilization of skilled workers for employment, entrepreneurship, and technology development for economic and social growth. This plan shall have adopted by the authority by updated periodically and submitted to the President of the Philippines for approval. Thereafter, it shall be planned for the technical education and skills development for the entire country within the framework of the National Development Plan. The authority shall direct TESDA Secretariat to call its member agencies, the private sector, and academe to assist in this effort. The comprehensive plan shall provide a reformed industry-based training programs including apprenticeship, dual training system, and other similar schemes intended to. First, promote maximum protection and welfare of the worker trainee. Then, improve the quality and relevance of social accountability of technical education and skill development. Accelerate the employment generation effort of the government and expand the range of opportunities for upward social mobility of the school-going population beyond the traditional higher level of formal education. The government and non-government agency receiving financial and technical assistance from the government shall be required to formulate their respective annual agency, technical education, and skill development plan in the line with the National Technical Education and Skill Development Plan. The budget to support such plan shall be subject to review and endorsement by the authority of the Department of Budget and Management. The authority shall evaluate the efficiency and effectiveness of the agencies. The authority shall evaluate the effectivity and efficiency of the agency's skills development program and schemes to make them conform with the qualitative and quantitative objectives of the National Technical Education and Skills Development Plan. Section 22. Establishment and administration of national trade skills and standards. There shall be national occupational skill standards to be established by TESDA, accredited industry committees. The authority shall develop and implement a certification and accreditation program in which private industry, groups, and trade associations are accredited to conduct approved trade tests, the local government units to promote such trade testing activities in their respective areas in accordance with the guidelines to be set by the authority. The Secretary of Labor and Employment shall determine the occupational trades for mandatory certification. All certificates relating to the national trade skills and testings and certificate system shall be issued by the authority through TESDA Secretariat. Section 23. Administration of training programs. The authority shall design and administer training programs and schemes that will develop the capability of public and private institutions to provide quality and cost-effective technical education and skill development and related opportunities. Such training programs and schemes shall include teachers trainers training, skills training for entrepreneur development and technology development, cost-effective training in occupational trades and related fields of the employment and value development as integral component of all skills training programs. Section 24. Assistance to employers and organization. The authority shall assist any employer or organization engaged in skill training scheme designed to attain its objective under rules and regulations which the authority shall establish for this purpose. Section 25, coordination of all skills training and schemes. In order to integrate the national skills development efforts and all technical education and skills training scheme as provider for this act shall be coordinated with the authority, particularly for those to do with the setting of trade skill standards. For this purpose, existing technical education and skills training programs in the government and in the private sector, specifically those wholly or partly financed with a government fund, shall be reported to the authority, which shall assess and evaluate such programs to ensure the efficiency and effectiveness. Section 26, Industry Board. The authority shall establish effective and efficient institutional arrangement with industry boards and such other bodies and associations to provide direct participation of employers and workers in the design and implementation of skills development scheme, trade skills standardization, and certification and such other functions in the fulfillment of the authority's objective. Section 27, Incentive Scheme. The authority shall develop and administer appropriate incentive scheme to encourage government and private industries and institutions to provide high-quality technical education and skills development opportunities. Section 28, Skills Development Opportunities. The authority shall design and implement an effective and efficient delivery system for quality technical education and skills development opportunities, particularly in disadvantaged sector, with the new tools of wealth creation and with the capability to take on higher value-added gainful activities and to share equitable in productivity gains. Section 29, Devolution of TESDA's training function to local governments. In establishing the delivery system provided for the preceding section, the authority shall formulate, implement, and finance a specific plan to develop the capability of the local government units to assume ultimately the responsibility for effectively providing community-based technical education and skill development opportunities, provided, however, that there shall be formulated and implemented an effective and timely retained of TESDA personnel that would be affected by the devolution to ensure their being retained if concerned local government units would be not able to absorb them. Section 30, Skill Olympics. To promote quality skills development in the country with a view of participating in international skills competition, the authority, with the active participation of private industries, shall organize and conduct annual National Skill Olympics. The authority, through the TESDA Secretariat, shall promulgate the necessary rules and guidelines for the effective and efficient conduct of annual National Skill Olympics and for countries' participation in International Skills Olympics. Next, Section 31, the TESDA Development Fund. A TESDA Development Fund is hereby established to be managed or administered by the authority, the income from which shall be utilized exclusively in awarding of grants and providing assistance to training institutions, industries, local government units for upgrading their capability and to develop and implement training and training-related activities. The contribution to the fund shall be the following. 1. One-time lump sum appropriation from the national government, then an annual contribution from the Overseas Workers Welfare Administration Fund, the amount of which shall be part of the study of financing in conjunction with the letter D of Section 34. Next, donation grants, endowments, and other bequest or gift and any other income generated by the authority. The TESDA Board shall be administrator of the fund, and such shall formulate the necessary implementing guidelines of the management of the fund, subject to the following. A. Unless otherwise stipulated by the private donor, only earning of private contribution shall be used, and B, no part of the seed capital of the fund, including earning thereof, shall be used in other underwrite expenses of administration. The board shall appoint a reputable government-accredited investment institution as fund manager, subject to guidelines promulgated by the board. Section 32, Scholarship Grants. The authority shall adopt a system of allocation and funding of scholarship grants which shall be responsive to the technical education and skill development needs of the different regions in the country. Now, Section 33, TESDA Budget. The amount necessary to finance the initial implementation of this act shall be charged against the existing appropriations of the NMYC and the BTVE. Thereafter, such funds as may be necessary for the continued implementation of this act shall be included in the Annual General Appropriations Act. Section 34, Transitory Provisions. A. Within 2 months after the approval of this act, the President shall, in consultation with the Secretary of Labor and Employment and the Secretary of Education, Culture, and Sports, appoint the private sector representatives of the TESDA Board. Within 3 months after the appointment of the private sector representatives, the President shall, upon the recommendation of the Board, appoint the General Director. Within 4 months after the appointment of the Director General, the Board shall convene to determine the organizational structure and staffing pattern of the authority. Within 1 year after the organization of the authority, the Board shall commission an expert group on funding schemes for the TESDA Development Fund, as provided in Section 31, the TESDA or the result which shall be used as the basis of appropriate action by the Board. The personnel of the existing National Manpower and Youth Council, NMYC, of the Department of Labor and Employment and the Bureau of Technical and Vocational Education, BTVE, of the Department of Education, Culture, and Sport shall, in a holdover capacity, continue to perform their respective duties and responsibilities and receive their corresponding salaries and benefit until such time when the organizational structure and staffing pattern of the authority shall have been approved by the Board, provided that the preparation and approval of the said new organizational structure and staffing pattern shall, as far as practicable, respect and ensure the security of tenure and seniority rights affected government employees. Those personnel whose positions are not included in the new staffing pattern approved by the Board and who are not reappointed or whose to be separated as a result of reorganization shall be paid their separation or retirement benefit under existing laws. Section 35, Automatic Review. Every 5 years after the effectivity of this act, an independent review panel composed of 3 persons appointed by the President shall review the performance of the authority and shall make recommendations. Based on its finding, to the President shall review the performance of the authority and shall make recommendations based on the findings to the President and both Houses of Congress. Section 36, Implementing Rules and Guidelines. The TESDA Board shall issue within a period of 90 days after the effectivity of this act the rules and regulations for the effective implementation of this act. The TESDA Board shall submit to the Committees on Education, Arts, and Culture of both Houses of Congress copies of the implementing rules and guidelines within 30 days after promulgation. Any violation of this section shall render the officials concerned liable under RA number 6713, otherwise known as the Code of Conduct and Ethics Standards for Public Officials and Employees, and other existing administrative and/or criminal laws. Section 37, Repealing Clause. All laws, presidential decrees, executive orders, presidential proclamations, rules and regulations, or part thereof, contrary to the inconsistent of this act are hereby reappealed or remodified accordingly. Section 38, Separability clause. In any provision of this act is declared unconstitutional at the same shall not affect the validity and effectivity of the other provision hereof. Section 39, Effectivity. This act shall take effect 15 days after its complete publication in 2 newspapers of general circulation. So approved by Jose de Venecia Jr., Speaker of the House of Representatives, and Edgardo J. Angara, President of the Senate. This act, which is consolidation of Senate Bill No. 1283 and House Bill No. 12194, was finally passed by the Senate of the House of Representatives on August 23, 1994, signed by Camilo L. Sabio, Secretary General, House of Representatives, signed by Edgardo E. Tumangan, Secretary of the Senate, approved on August 25, 1994, and Fidel V. Ramos, President of the Philippines. I hope you learned a lot from us. Thank you and God bless us all.